Hey everyone, Dawn Zoldai here, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting and your host for the Dawn of Drones podcast. We are continuing a month dedicated to New Year, New Tech, sponsored by L-Site and Speedbird Aero. If you missed last week's show with Yoav Amitai of L-Site and Manuel Cogio from Speedbird, go back and check it out on demand on AUVSI's YouTube channel. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to that yet, go ahead and do it. But this week, along with our theme, we're going to be talking about some new incredible tech for first responders from Paladin Drones. And we have with us here Tyler Roberts from Paladin. So welcome to the show, Tyler.
Yeah, Don, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much to talk about. By the way, everybody, Tyler was on our Clubhouse last week. Clubhouse is Drone Law Connections. It's being now hosted by our dear friend and colleague, Maggie Schuster. If you missed Tyler in Clubhouse, it was phenomenal. Go ahead and listen to that on demand. We'll drop that link here. But Tyler, let's talk about what you're doing at Paladin. And I think a picture paints 1,000 words. So let's go ahead and roll that video first, and then we'll dig into it.
Introducing Paladin EXT, breaking through the barriers of radio-based UAVs and their limited range. With an easy installation of the EXT module, fly your DJI drone beyond visual line of sight. EXT enables you to operate first responder programs without the need for a remote piloting command on a rooftop. Fly anywhere in the country with an LTE connection via a centrally located command center. Receive a call for service and have a live overhead view within minutes. Gather valuable situational awareness on the ground and broadcast a live feed to your team across multiple devices before first responders arrive on the scene.
It is a game changer. DFR is the future. As drone first responders, it lets you respond to calls where seconds count.
We're also excited to extend the autonomous controls and unlimited range of the EXT to other industries and unlock new possibilities in 3D mapping, inspections, and agriculture.
Paladin EXT. Limitless range, unlimited possibilities.
All right, excellent. You know what? There is so much to unpack here. So the first thing I want to ask you, Tyler, is what is the Paladin solution?
Yeah, so the Paladin solution, essentially what we do is autonomous drones for first responders. So we are responding to 911 emergency. How do we do that? So it's obviously a combination of drones, right? What hardware are they flying? And then our software solution, which allows them to teleoperate drones and actually send them to emergency response calls autonomously from a remote location. So the full solution is completely centered around LTE. So LTE in drones is a sort of a new concept. Instead of being connected to the remote controller, it's actually connected to the cellular network around the drone, which gives it a ton of benefits that I'm sure we're going to dive into throughout this.
We absolutely are. And you kind of alluded to it here, but who are the actual stakeholders that you work with?
Yeah, so our technology works with a lot of different industries. We specialize in and pretty much exclusively work with public safety. So that's police departments, fire departments, anyone responding to 911 emergencies. We've talked to hundreds of police officers and firefighters. We know, or at least we think we know the needs and the problems that we're trying to solve. And we think that our solution's been catered to do exactly that.
All right. And you've got a number of different pieces and parts to this Paladin solution. So tell us just a real quick overview of the services and products that you offer.
Yeah, so starting with the drones, again, everything is centered around LTE, which is cellular connection. So we have our drone, the Nighthawk, which is an LTE-based drone, 55-minute battery life, 10x optical, 640p thermal camera. The newest product we just came out with takes what's really good about our drone that we make and puts it onto the most common drone in public safety, which is the DJI aircraft. And so that module makes the M300, Matrice 300, and the M30 LTE based. So that's the hardware part. And how does that connect into our software? So then our software is then able to remotely control these drones and autonomously send them to the 911 calls. So we have an online platform, click a button, drone takes off, and I mean, I could do it right now on my phone. I could launch a drone. I'm in New York City, in San Diego from my phone. So being able to operate that from, in a real world setting, the other side of the city and getting eyes on in 30 seconds. That's really what our solution does.
Well, that's huge, Tyler. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about this LTE aspect, but so many DFR drone as first responder solutions require people to be up on a roof. I mean, we had Tawny Smith from Flying Lion, and she has her own company as well, but she does some work for Flying Lion and talked all about that. And I think it was like last August, if I recall correctly. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like just being up on a roof, are you kidding me? So let's hold on that. And we're going to obviously expand on that. And by the way, everybody out there, we are live. So I know you're out there. Make sure to engage in the chat, say hello, ask Tyler your questions, because he's the guy you want to ask the questions to about how this all works. So let's focus first on your Nighthawk. So this was like the drone that you guys actually created, one of the first products that you made and put out. So tell us about that Nighthawk.
Yeah, so we quickly realized that the largest blocker for DFR specifically to work was going to be the range issues. And the problems that we're trying to solve are officer safety, of course, but then also the fact that a lot of police departments are understaffed. And so LTE really enables us to solve both of those solutions, and Nighthawk was the first iteration of that. So our founder, he was 19, I think, when he actually made this, when he made the Nighthawk.
Wow.
And I don't know what you were doing when you were 19. I was not making.
I was definitely not designing drones. I was,
right.
Yeah, definitely in college, doing stupid things probably.
Yeah. We could have another podcast about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so the Nighthawk, it's a 55-minute battery life. Battery life is also not a huge issue, but a big factor in which drone you're going to choose. So 55-minute battery life, the LTE connection, the 10x optical 640p thermal payload on one. That's really what the Nighthawk is. And so it's perfect for DFR. We have Elizabeth, New Jersey, their police department was using it for, I think, about 6 months before they transitioned to our new product. And because of that battery life, they were able to respond to like 2 or 3 calls per flight and just bounce around the city, either clearing calls or assisting officers. So the Nighthawk was a very good first step in the right direction for LTE.
Well, and I don't know that you mentioned this, Tyler, but doesn't it have like a 3-mile radius?
Yes, so that is more of an FAA guideline. Get rid of regulations. Say you have a limitless battery life, the LTE connection, as long as it's connected to the cellular network, can keep flying, right? So battery life's unlimited, no regulations. You can just keep on going until there's no LTE signal around you. So the FAA limits isn't the right word. I feel like they give us, because it's actually, it covers a lot of ground, gives us
Right.
3-mile radius to fly beyond visual line of sight.
Now we have an image up here, Tyler. I want to talk about this and pivot for a second, just a little bit, to talk about the difference between LTE coverage and traditional radio-based coverage. So can you explain what we're seeing in this graphic?
Yeah, so this graphic really shows it all, why we're pursuing LTE and why LTE is really the future of beyond visual line of sight flying in an urban setting. So on the left side of that image, you're going to see Odessa, Texas. Odessa, Texas, their fire rescue and police department are doing a joint operation for drone as a first responder. They're actually transitioning to our new product next week. On the left side, you have radio-based coverage. So we like to say, some agencies, if you're using an M300, you can get, 2.5 miles on a good day. Elizabeth, New Jersey, for example, gets a 1/2 mile with their radio-based communication. And the reason for that is, right, you're flying a drone, you have the controller in your hand, and you're flying the drone. As soon as the drone gets too far away, as soon as there's an obstruction in the middle of the remote controller and the drone, you're going to lose connection. The drone's going to come back. So with LTE, that doesn't happen. So we like to say on average, you could get maybe 1.5 miles with a radio-based drone. So those circles there are 1.5 mile radius around either a police department or a fire station in Odessa, Texas. That epicenter is a real address. So you're flying a radio-based drone. It will take 10 radio-based drones to cover a 56 square mile ops area. So that's what you're seeing on the left. The black circles are areas where there's actually a fire station or a police station to securely keep that aircraft. The red circles are areas they would like to cover but can't because they have nowhere to put them.
Okay.
Flip to the right side. So this is the LTE-based coverage. That's a 3 mile radius, which again, we can consistently hit with LTE provided there's a cellular connection. This is an urban environment. There is a cellular connection throughout their city. So it only takes 3 drones to geographically cover their entire city. So imagine buying 3 M300s, which is about $75,000 with the H20T versus buying 10. So there's huge cost savings just by using LTE in that regard. Same thing for software license. But there's another big, massive benefit, and that is the fact that we don't need RPICs on the roof. Don, do you want me to get into that right now?
Yeah, let's do that. We take that image down, and you know, we don't have an image of a first responder on the roof. I have an image in my head from that conversation with Tani, and I remember her saying that, you know, they have to build kind of makeshift coverings up there, you know, to shield them from the elements. You know, and I think I recall her talking, well, she's in California, and so sometimes the heat, and God forbid now, like the ridiculous amount of rain they're getting. You know, so tell us about the benefits of LTE and why you no longer need a RPIC on the roof.
Yeah. So, and just for context, all day long, what I do is set up and design DFR programs, launch locations, FAA regulations. What kind of altitudes do we want to get within those grid squares? Should we get them raised? All the way through training and onboarding and actually seeing the program come to fruition, and then 6 months, a year later, it's actually working. So when you're designing a DFR program, you need to think about scalability. And with radio-based solutions, that map that we were just showing, at the epicenter of every single one of those 1.5 mile radius with the radio-based drone, you need an RPIC, remote pilot and command, on the rooftop, holding that remote controller. This isn't so much an FAA issue as it is a technology issue. So when I'm submitting a ConOps with my mitigations, the 2 mitigations I put in there are VOs are sufficiently covering the city to be able to see 2 miles around the drone at any given time.
And I'm going to
And
interrupt you for 1 second because I'm an acronym, you know, I'm like very sensitive. So ConOps, for those that don't know, are concepts of operations, and a VO is a visual observer. Now, most of our viewers probably know that, but for those that don't, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So when you submit this ConOps, or concept of operations, to the FAA, the one thing you said was visual observers need to be where?
So you need to have sufficient visual observers to be able to see a 2 mile radius around the drone. You need to be able to see that airspace. And then you need to have constant communication with the RPIC, or the person who's actually flying that drone. So why is this a technology issue? Radio-based communication, again, the reason they're up on the roof and they're holding that remote controller is because they're trying to maximize the range that they can get between that C2 link, the radio-based C2 link.
Command and control.
LTE, yes, command and control.
I'm going to stay on you, Tyler.
Okay. With the LTE, the command and control link, C2, is LTE. So it is not connection from controller to drone. It is drone to the cellular network around it. So you can launch from ground level. You don't need somebody up there holding the remote controller trying to maximize the range. That's not what the C2 link is. So we don't need that person on the rooftop. We've effectively eliminated that necessity. So why is this important when you're actually scaling a DFR program? If you have one launch location with a radio-based drone, you're covering a 1.5 mile radius, and you have to staff somebody on the roof. Say you're just doing that for one shift during maybe your busy hours. Okay, that's one officer. Hopefully you're in a very large call volume area or a hotspot within your city, so that you can actually get the ROI on having that officer or that person up there sitting there and holding the controller. But when you want to go into a 24/7 model, right? Say you want the drone available at night. You're in a 3-shift model. That means you need 3 people to cover that 1.5 mile radius. This is supposed to be a force multiplier, but when you're burning 3 people on one launch location just for 24/7 coverage, to me, that is not a force multiplier. To me, 3 people out in the field is far more effective than having a drone, having them stand on the roof and having a drone effectively clearing calls. Now it's a 3-to-1 ratio. So for LTE, you're covering a 3-mile radius. With radio based, you're covering 1.5 miles. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio on coverage. So the effects are now cascading. If you want to cover the same amount of area as an LTE drone with radio based, what's going to happen is you need 3 launch locations and 3 people per launch location. That's 9 people to cover the same amount of area. There's no way there's an ROI on that with radio based communication.
Wow. So ROI, everybody, return on investment. So, hey, Tyler, I got to tell you, we got folks jumping in the chat already. Tony Parker is saying, my first thought was woohoo. And Shannon Knutson is saying super cool. So you're gaining some fans out there already, Tyler, people that might not have known what Paladin was doing. And, when you think about resources and ROI, people are really your most expensive asset. I mean, let's call it, drone is one thing, paying for the hardware, paying for the software, as you mentioned, but paying for people and having 3 people in one shift, having to sit on a roof for hours on end, waiting for a 911 to call in and then to launch that drone and have a radio in their hand, radio controller in their hand. I mean, this is a significant say. I love the word you used, cascading. I think that really is a great way to describe the ROI and the effects of your solution for these departments, because let's face it, I mean, and I'm sure you know this because you're out in the field talking to these folks all the time. I mean, resources are constrained with first responders. They don't have, grant money or other money falling out of the sky necessarily. And so they have to be super efficient. And I think this is a really super efficient way to amplify what they're doing. So let's talk about this DFR concept for a second, because people may not appreciate what these departments are actually doing from kind of a use case standpoint. When we talk about DFR, the 911 call comes in, and what are they doing with that drone, and why is it helpful? Why does it amplify their resources if they're doing this right?
Yeah, and apologies if I mute. I'm in New York City and it is so loud just through this window. There are so many cars driving
You are
by.
good to go. Yeah.
So yes, what is DFR? I think we should talk again about the issues that we're trying to solve. Okay, officer safety, one of them, or firefighter safety. Officer safety. Resource allocation. This one is a really big one that is sort of people don't even think about. And then the other one is call clearing. Okay. So I just talked to a department the other day, and they are down 50% of the amount of officers that they are authorized to operate with.
Like, do you know
50%.
why that is? Is it, I mean, just they cut back, or is it like everybody's sick because of
No,
whatever's going around right now? Or
no, not at all. I've not heard a single department cut back. It's just really hard to find people to become officers. And
wow.
the reasons for that, I'm probably not the right person to ask, but one thing is for sure, they are struggling with staffing right now. And that makes doing their job, which is dangerous and difficult, far harder. And so what does DFR do? Okay, so officer safety, and this will actually, when we get into anecdotes a little later, I'll be able to talk a little bit more on this, but officer safety, you have eyes on any officer. Say you're down 50% of your force, the closest patrol unit to you is 15-minute drive away, and you're responding to an aggravated assault. Something goes down, they're 15 minutes away from you,
Wow.
right? So it's
Yeah.
nice to have eyes on. You know exactly what is happening. You have the drone there. You can see exactly in real time what is going on, almost like Overwatch for your officers. If something happens, you can follow with the drone, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first biggest benefit is officer safety. The second one, resource allocation. So, and I'm going to put this one into the context of firefighters, because I think this is one of the biggest benefits for firefighters. Say somebody calls, they're very frantic, they say my house is on fire. Okay, the typical response is send 4 trucks, send 6 trucks, get the trucks there and put that fire out.
Right.
Trucks arrive, it's the back fence that's on fire, and they only needed 1 truck to put that out. So now
Yeah.
they had Now they had, 5 trucks going 80 miles an hour through a residential area just trying to get there, and 5 trucks that are now out of commission and can't go to other calls. Get the drone there first while everyone's responding. Get eyes on scene, see that it's just the back fence, and all you need is 1, maybe 2 trucks, and then let the other ones hang back or go back to the station and be ready for another call. The resource allocation is massive with this. And then the last one is call clearing. And again, this will fit in better with the anecdotes in a minute, but call clearing is huge. Say you have a blocked driveway call and you're understaffed. You need to send a uniformed officer to go check to see if that driveway is blocked, even though that call has been sitting in the CAD for 30 minutes. Is it still blocked? Send the drone, check the driveway. It's not blocked. Clear the call. No need to dispatch anyone. Suspicious person's call came in. Send the drone. You can clear an area much faster from above with the drone. Guy's got a red shirt on. Look for the red shirt. If you don't find him, clear the call. If you do, and you need to send an officer response, radio out. Found the suspicious person. He's doing X, Y, Z. Need someone on scene.
Well, you're kind of alluding to this. You're talking about seeing things. And so let's maybe talk a little bit about Watchtower and kind of this connection, right, between whether it's the Nighthawk, and we'll get to your EXT product in a second, whatever drone using that. How does it work? How does the streaming work? How do people, what are they seeing, in other words?
Yeah, so Watchtower again is basically our DFR control center. So everything DFR goes on this one platform, streaming, data management, and control of the actual drone. So if you're the pilot, what you're going to see is 3 buttons and a map. You can enter an address or click on the map, and that's where the drone is going. You click start, you'll see the live video feed and the drone flying. You arrive on scene. There's a variety of ways to control the drone just based on your preference. My favorite is keyboard controls, right? So almost like a video game. AWSD, Q and E rotates the drone. You can flip through your cameras with T, zoom in, zoom out. Very intuitive, very simple, especially, it's important for these high stakes situations when the adrenaline gets flowing.
Right.
Streaming. You can send a streaming link to anybody that you want. And there's a variety of ways you can create user permissions, security, just based on your department's preference, but send that streaming link out. And there's really 2 ways to communicate. It's you either quarterback the call, so you're a dedicated unit that will tell units basically how to respond based on what you're seeing, or you can stream that feed out to them and they can assess for themselves.
All right, very good. You mentioned security, so I'm just going to ask, how do you ensure the security of that stream so looky-loos don't get access to it to either see what's happening or even to mess with the drone?
Yeah, so we have a number of layers of encryptions and security. The way that they're called user permissions are set up is you have super admin who's in charge, pilots, so they're the ones who are allowed to control the physical drone and have access to that dashboard, and then you have spectators. Spectators do not have access to the flight controls, of course, because we don't, want anyone messing with the flight. They just have the view only link. 2 ways to do it. Either you can add everybody that you would like to be able to see that link as a user, just as a spectator. It's very simple to do. You can also create what's called a temporary link. And so you create that link, you set a time limit to it, and then you can send that out to anybody that you need. So if there's a massive incident and you want even the public to view it for whatever reason, or it's a interagency effort, right? Firefighters, police officers, you want everyone to see it, then you can create that temporary link and send it out to anybody.
Awesome. I'm smiling right now, Tyler, because Brandon Vaccaro, our buddy, just said, hey, go Tyler. So, hey, Brandon, good to see you out there. Brandon is a regular on our clubhouse. So awesome, and very involved in public safety out there in California. So let's talk about let's get real. Let's talk about a real world example. I know you mentioned the Elizabeth, New Jersey folks out there. I don't know if that's the one you want to use, but let's kind of bring this to life by giving folks a real world example of how this has worked and how successful it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a few stories queued up for you, Don, and most of them actually align with what I've been saying, are the benefits of drone as a first responder. I will tell the very first success story that we saw, which was an immediate benefit from this program in Elizabeth, New Jersey. On the second day of deployments, they got a call of lewdness. So there was lewdness happening outside of a school as kids were leaving the school around 3 o'clock, which is just terrible.
Yeah.
Drone arrives on scene. The typical response on that, without a drone, what are you supposed to do? You lights and sirens, you pull up and you stop him. All he has to do is stop what he's doing, and more likely than not, nothing is going to happen. What we were able to do, we got the drone on scene. We got a live video of what he was doing. We circled
Yikes.
around.
That would
Yeah.
not have been fun to watch, by the way. I was a
Yeah.
prosecutor for the Air Force, and there are like images emblazoned in my memory that I will never ever unsee. And that's one that I wouldn't want to see. But for evidence purposes, it's crucial.
Crucial. I don't want to see it either.
Yep.
So circled around, got the license plate. Clear as day, we know exactly what the license plate number is. Description of the car. Officers were responding, but they hadn't arrived on scene yet. Car starts to pull away. Drone follows the car and directs officers to a great place to arrest him. Officers pull him over. We provide overwatch while the arrest is happening. Everyone's safe. Arrest, evidence. It was a very, very good situation. We put away a person who you shouldn't be doing that.
Well,
So
I'm telling, just from a prosecutor's perspective, that's a dream for me, to be able to have a video that I could show a judge or a jury, that not only shows the act during commission, but then the context of the car, the actual license plate. And I imagine, because I know we always get incidental collection when we do things, right? Just the surrounding area of the school. There's probably kids walking by. Like, I mean, you can't get better than that. And that was like on day 2 of them using that. That's amazing. So you got some others teed up, you said.
Yeah, and it was actually a mother of a child who called that 911 call in. This person had been doing it for like a month, and they
Good
finally caught him.
Lord.
Yeah, terrible. So that was a awesome success very early on in that program. Another one that they had, it was about maybe 6 weeks ago, they had an active shooter call come in. Active shooter call comes in, immediate drone response. That's what it's for, rapid response, get there on scene. When an active shooter call comes in, all of the resources in Elizabeth flood straight to that scene. Every available officer, everybody goes straight there. Stop or neutralize the threat. Drone goes, searches for the suspect, isn't able to find him. Perimeter's set up, everybody's on scene, but it's 6 o'clock on a Thursday. The calls for service don't stop coming in. Other people still need assistance while all of these officers are effectively dealing with the active shooter who's out there assisting with all of the other calls.
Right.
So they actually used the drone to not necessarily clear the calls, well, they did clear calls, but to respond to priority 2, priority 3 calls to see if there was a response needed, right? So if I can't remember any specifics of calls came in, but they would send the drone, either clear it or assign an officer to go and handle the call. So that's a really good example of a rapid response to a serious threat, and then pulling back and actually being more of a call clearing and resource allocation asset.
Wow, and I know you've got so many more, but I want to really walk it back to the very beginning, Tyler, because we saw your CEO in the video in the very beginning of this show. And obviously drones have been such a benefit to public safety. But what kind of led to this idea of, hey, let's create a better way for people? Can you share with us just briefly that story?
Yeah, it's not my story, it's Divvy's story.
It is, and I know he's not here, but you're his
Not here, but I'll tell it
spokesperson,
more.
so
I've heard it before, so I will tell it. So when he was 18 years old, his friend's house burnt down,
oh my
and
gosh.
he went to the scene after. I mean, total fire, nothing was salvaged, and he struck a conversation with one of the firefighters on scene and was asking them, when you're responding to these calls, this is classic Divvy. When you're responding to these calls, like, what do you actually know? And effectively, the firefighter said, not much. We don't really know
Yeah.
anything. And so that's where the idea came from, to be able to get a drone on scene before they do, so that they can at least know what's going on. First iteration was the software. He created the software to control, I believe it was the Phantom 4, and quickly realized. So he was working with San Jose Fire Department. I think he lived with the fire department for like 3 months, and
Wow.
just worked very, very closely with them over there. They quickly realized, they said, hey, there's a fire over there. Is there any way we can get the drone there? And he goes, no way. The range simply will not be able to get there. And that's when the
Right.
idea came, okay, we need to fix this range issue. And so Nighthawk was born. That was the first iteration of an LTE based drone, because back then that was really all he could do.
Right.
Instead of our new product, which is make the DJI drones LTE, he just decided, I have to make my own. And so he did.
That is unbelievable. And as you said, he was 19 at the time. What an inspirational story, origin story for that. And to know that it was very personal to him, that his friend's house had burned down, and to think how can we help people that are helping others. Wow, unbelievable. By the way, Wayne Bailey is out there saying, great tool for public safety. Thank you, Wayne. He's also a huge fan, so love that. So we've mentioned it a couple times, and I know everybody's waiting with bated breath here. Tell us about what's new, your LTE EXT module. Tell us all about that one, Tyler.
A lot of acronyms on that one.
It
So
is. It's a,
So the EXT module, EXT, essentially, and I think I said it earlier, what's really good about Nighthawk is the LTE connection. So we took what was really, really good about that, and it's an American-made drone, much more expensive than the classic DJI drones. 10x optical payload versus an H20T, you do the math. So we took what's really, really good about our product, and we put it on the most common and the most owned drone in public safety, which is DJI. Why did we pick the M300 and the M30? Battery life and weather rating. So the M3, this is, we need to be able to deploy this 365, 24/7. And obviously, if there's a blizzard going on, you can't deploy it. But for the most part, those drones are able to handle wind conditions, heat, rain, cold. They're probably the most versatile out there of the DJI suite. And so that's really why we picked them. And it's going very well. The startup cost, again, cost and budget are a huge factor in public safety. And so the fact that they don't have to buy a new aircraft after just having asked admin or command for money the year before to buy DJI drones. So now they can use the equipment they already have, the equipment they know how to fly, the equipment they trust, and enable it with LTE to fly beyond visual line of sight.
Well, and so we just had the picture up there. Can you explain a little bit about the EXT? In other words, like how much does it weigh, right? I know weight is often an issue for not only range, right? But yeah, so how much does it weigh? Like, what are some of the specs of the EXT?
Yeah, so version 1, which is what we launched with October 6th of last year, that was 1 kilogram in weight. So that is what you saw in the actual video, the one that was very thick and looked like it had a little fan on the top, which was the heat sink. That was version 1. And we
That's
quickly
less than a
realized,
pound. I'm doing the conversion in my brain, and it's not. I don't do public math. So pounds, like how, or ounces, like how?
we can look it up. I have no idea.
All right, you keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
All right, you
So
do.
it's 1 kilogram.
2.2 pounds.
Okay, gotcha. 2.2 pounds.
Wow,
All
that's
right.
actually way heavier than I thought. Anyways, that was way too heavy, especially for an M30. The 300 could bear it, the M30 cannot. So we cut it about 60% of the weight. I believe it's around 400 grams right now. So that's the
Wow.
smaller module that you just saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which breaks some things. It definitely breaks some things when you cut that much weight out of it. But we cut down a lot of weight, which gives a lot of benefits. Battery life is a big one. Versatility, as we expand into more drones, it's going to be a lot easier to implement that module. The module itself, the way you plug it in, so it just plugs in simply to the PSDK port, and then screw four little screws into the top of the 30 or the 300, and you're good to go. It's really that easy.
That is unbelievable. Now, you had mentioned this, Tyler, but I want to dig a little deeper. Oh, wait a minute. We have a question that is a great question from Shannon. What's the max flight time with that module, with the EXT module on there?
So if you're using the H20T, it'll shave off maybe a minute or two more than what you get with your H20T. So I've heard anything from 28 to 40 minutes with the H20T. I usually see around 32. So it's still in and around that number.
Excellent. And everybody, again, if you have questions, we are getting close to the end of our time. Make sure you're firing them away to Tyler because he's here to answer them. And we'll give you a way to connect with him, of course, after the show as well. But you do so much more than just giving hardware, whether it's your Nighthawk or now your EXT or your software like Watchtower to first responders. You have a very robust program, let's call it, where not only, as you said, you go out and no kidding, almost like Divvy did when he lived with the fire department during the origins of the company, you go out to the location, you look around, help them design their program, but you also do training and you also help them obtain waivers. Is that right, Tyler? Can you tell us a little bit about like your holistic solution?
Yeah, so we set the entire program up, and the reason for that is we've done it so many times, and we know what we're doing, especially on the FAA side and getting those waivers. It takes me about cumulative work, and this is so we do this entire service, the Beyond Visual Line of Sight (BVLOS) waiver process for you, included in the software. So if you get the software, we get you the waiver, and that's because it literally takes about 25 minutes. Say what you will about the FAA, but if you've done it before, like we have, it will take 25 minutes to actually do the paperwork and fill out caps to get you that waiver.
And that's amazing. Hey, Tyler, are we talking about your tactical BVLOS waiver for public safety specifically?
No. We don't do tactical. So we do the actual Beyond Visual Line of Sight.
Like 107.
Like Part 91, 113B, waiving that regulation. You do
Gotcha.
not need to see your Beyond Visual Line of Sight. So
Gotcha.
not the tactical, I guess, the one with no T on the beginning.
Okay. All right. So it comes with the software. You help them. Takes 25 minutes. They fill out a form. Excuse me. And you get it through the FAA for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's more than one form. It's like 4 or 5 forms, fill out the caps. There's a whole process to do it. But once you've done it once or twice or 15 times, it's very, very easy. And the FAA has actually made the process a lot better and a lot more efficient. So kudos to them on that. So we do that. And then we have 2 ways of training. Yeah, we have 2 ways of training. We can do it virtually. So Don, I can send you a link right now to a drone and you could click start and fly it from your desk while the drone is in Houston, Texas.
That's amazing.
So we can do virtual training if we have, and I actually did it last week. If you have 20 pilots in a program, you can train every single one of them virtually before you even send the EXT module there. Once the EXT module is there, then you can either do on-site training. It just really depends on how experienced the department is.
So when you think about cost savings, that's huge, right? Because not only does training cost people money, but it also costs them a lot of time. And if you have to get a whole group of people together live and bring in an instructor or something, so that's just another benefit that you're giving to people. And by the way, FG, whoever FG is out there saying exciting stuff. Thanks. So thank you, FG, for making the comment. So just amazing. All right, so you've done a very rapid iteration. You said October 6th was your first EXT module, weight a little heavy. You went ahead and sliced out a whole bunch of weight out of that just recently. So what's next?
We have a lot of this. It seems like this is, and I don't know why, all of these projects seem to be coming to fruition for us. We have about 4 or 5 new things coming out. Not all of them massive announcements, but some of them very, very, very useful in the next quarter. So by the end of March, they should all be released by then. I don't want to spoil them right now. First one should be coming out end of January, and I think a lot of people are going to really like this one.
So Tyler, you focused on public safety primarily, and I know that's your origin story. I imagine this concept would be very useful also for something like infrastructure inspections, like kind of on the spot, like emergency situations that maybe you wouldn't call public safety for, but if I owned a pipeline or something and I want to have an immediate response before I'm sending people out there, I imagine something like what you're offering to public safety is something that also translates otherwise to the larger commercial sector.
It does. So Right now,
Maybe you can't
we're
talk about
Paladin.
it because maybe this is something we're going to see later, and I preempted you. But
It's not well. So it's difficult just from the business side. We have the technology that can work in pretty much all of those industries
right,
and
right,
work again a lot better than the radio-based drones. If you
right.
can lily pad charging docks and fly 15 miles and somehow get the waiver to do that just right above the power line, that is extremely beneficial, and we can do that today. And all of that technology already exists. But what we're really, really, really good at is public safety. We know the needs. We've talked to hundreds of customers. We know the processes to get it in place. We're really good at it. And so going into another industry like that, while our tech is working and we can do it, it's not our focus.
Well, you know what? They say niches make riches. And no, I think a singular focus is a smart business model because you can really become the experts in that, and people will associate your brand with that market use case. And so Tyler, where is your headquarters located?
So we're located in Houston, Texas. We actually just moved up into a bigger office space.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And how many states are your products being deployed in right now?
Right now and the end of the month are very different answers. Right now, there's probably like 10. End of the month, we should hopefully have 20 to 25. We actually, it's funny you should say that, and maybe this is the reason you asked the question, but we have something called the flagship program right now. And what this flagship program is, every time you set up a program in a new state, there are regulations that you have to learn, not necessarily on the FAA side, but on just the city side and the state side, right? For flying drones. California, a drone is considered military now. So you have to navigate the new landscape in every state. And there's 50 of them. So that's 50 new landscapes. Once you've done it once, it's very easy to scale that into a process. You have to figure it all out with person number one. So what we did, we are doing a trial program for agencies around the country. Every single state, our goal is to get one agency to be the flagship for all of the other states. What policies and procedures did you put in place? What sort of red tape and or planning did you have to do in order to get this program set up? So our goal again, get one agency who knows what they're doing, good experience with drones, who've been flying it for 3 or 4 years, who really just need to learn beyond visual line of sight and the software rather than how to fly a drone. Those are the agencies we're looking for to really spearhead the programs in their states and teach everyone else how to do it after.
You know, that's really brilliant to kind of almost create a mini center of excellence and almost like a train the trainer scenario with someone that's already been doing it in that state. I mean, that's a brilliant model. I've never really thought about that. So how do people apply to become, or how do first responders apply to become a member of your flagship cadre, if you will?
So you can shoot me an email, request a demo through our website, either through the standard one or through the flagship program um, request demo section. One thing I will say, so it's a 6-week trial, but it can be extended if you do choose to continue the program. And the point of the 6 weeks is after we've gone through all of the planning and learned about how we implement this, does it actually work for your city, right? Is it actually clearing the amount of calls? Is it helping and giving you the benefits that you need? And then the element that we're very excited about, but generous because it takes 25 minutes to do, is we're getting these departments a beyond visual line of sight waiver for free. A lot of companies will charge $5,000, $10,000, 15 just for a beyond visual line of sight waiver. If you participate in this flagship program, no strings attached, we will get you a beyond visual line of sight waiver because we want you to use it the way it's supposed to be used.
We all heard it here, so you're gonna need to be talking to Tyler about becoming part of this. That's incredible. So we are like 1 minute out, Tyler. I'm gonna give you the floor to kind of give your closing thoughts, anything we missed that you wanted to make sure everybody knew, and certainly please include how they can reach you.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, Paladin, thinks that this is the absolute future of public safety. If staffing shortages continue, the job's not going to get any safer, but we can try and make it safer, right? With technology, with live video feed, with that added situational awareness of getting there 1, 2, 3 minutes before an officer responds and seeing what's going on. So our mission, we're trying to make public safety and the way that departments operate more efficient given the current challenges today. And I think this technology really does it specifically with the LTE, making it a force multiplier, getting really good beyond visual line of sight waivers. And like I said, that flagship program, we designed that because we really want to get this out there and we want to get people using it. We want to see what's working, what's not working, and how can we fix it. So please reach out. My email is Tyler, Tyler, at Paladin Drones. If I spell that one, Paladin, drones.io. So that's my email. Phone number 737-37, I'm saying it too fast, 737-377-4754. That's my phone number. Fill out the request demo form on the website and I will respond in due time.
All right, well, very good. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for sharing what Paladin is doing with all of us. And we are going to be watching very closely over the next couple months for your new announcements, and wishing you the best of luck and a belated Happy New Year. So that's all she wrote, everybody. Please join us next week. We have another incredible company, Modal AI. They're going to be talking about their Voxel 2 autopilot. So new tech, everybody, new year, new tech. We are out here. Thanks so much.